Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Small Town Music. You get me and just me today. So, today I wanted to specifically talk about how to wrap up um, a solo and ensemble type contest that you may have had recently, or maybe it was a little bit ago for you, depending on your state and just the system that you're working with. I know I just had students perform a couple weeks ago. Laura had students perform last weekend, so I wanted to go over that. Before I get too far into that, I did want to make a mention that Laura and I are going to do a series over the summer and maybe sprinkled throughout the year of things I didn't learn in college, which is a lot, a lot of things that I just feel we should kind of talk about, and we'll try to split them up into different topics. But what I want to hear from you guys is what are some things that you specifically need to know that you did not learn in college that you have questions about, um, that would be beneficial to you, either currently or down the road or whatever. Just things that you have questions, just email us, talk to us on the socials. We'll be posting about it as well. So keep that in mind. Okay, so if you recently got done with solo and ensemble, or if you have solo and ensemble contest coming up, then you maybe these are just things to just keep in mind as you go through this process. If you don't know what solo and ensemble is, either your state doesn't have it or it's called something different. It is where you prepare music. Your students prepare music with hopefully with your help or a private lessons teacher help, and your students will pick either a solo or a chamber ensemble type music. I really appreciate that, at least in our state, they have the opportunity to do like mixed woodwind, mixed brass, percussion ensemble. They can't mix instrument families, so it has to be all woodwind or all brass or percussion. That you can do like a pretty decent sized woodwind ensemble. So I know a lot of schools will do like their entire, you know, woodwind group out of their band or whatever and do like some kind of mixed ensemble event, which is pretty cool and a pretty good opportunity for bands. So if you don't know what that is, that's what it is. Our students, it's a contest, but it's a contest with yourself. Like they get a medal, they get a score sheet, and the judges score based on lowest points. You get 8 points to 13 and a half is gold, and 14 to 18 is silver, and 18 and a half to 23 is bronze, and then below that it's just a participation. So ideally, your students get gold or silver, bronze kind of being the like, oh, like something wasn't super great. Participation being that kid walked in the room, sneezed, and then left. um, so when you get good scores, celebrate. When you get not as good scores, celebrate. Still try to make a big deal about it for your kids because that is a lot of work for them. That's a lot of courage for them to be able to go into that room with a stranger and play their absolute best that they can on that day and then leave and hope it's the result that they wanted. But posting on social media, promote their hard work, put it on the school announcements, put it in the town newspaper, put it in, all these things in places that we can shout out kids and make a recognition and say like, hey, these kids are doing good things, like they're working really hard, they're playing really well, they're doing all these great things in a world full of news that's always difficult to hear. Thank everyone involved. you know just make sure you're reaching out to everybody, talk to your admins about it, talk it up with your admins about how big of a deal this is in class. For all the kids that didn't go, don't necessarily shame them, especially if you're in a small town program like mine. Those kids probably know they don't sign up for things because they know their parents are going to say no because of the cost and because of transportation and time and all this stuff. Oh, well, dad has to take off work if I have to go have a performance on this day. And So I encourage it, but I don't force it. I do a different kind of event called Coffee House, which we're actually going to be having that performance this week, where every student participates in that. I host it at the school. It's like maybe an hour long. Kids play, they get on stage, they play, and then they're done. And it's a really good opportunity for them to showcase their instrument, and their parents get to hear them in a very different way, which is really cool. But after the event is over, all the students that went, all the students that you had go, I would talk individually with those students about those scores and kind of go through the sheet, give your interpretation. I know my students had questions on like, well, what does the judge mean when they said this, or what does this mean? So that was really good to be able to talk with each student and to give my opinions too. Like, hey, I think your performance was really good. You definitely, I think you should have gotten this score, but they gave you this, and here's why, and that kind of thing. Chances are kids are probably pretty aware of the mistakes that they made. If a kid is going to solo and ensemble and putting in the effort to practice that solo and to work like that, they know what they're doing or not doing. I am fortunate enough that I can hear all of my students on the day and on the performance, and I can hear them performing and playing. So I know exactly what their performance sounded like, in addition to knowing what their piece should sound like, because I probably picked it out. But I've also worked with them extensively on their piece. So if you're not able to go and see each student perform because there's just too many, I know inevitably the timing it's really really tight in there. So um, I think it's really important to go support your students and to hear them if you can. But also, like there was a performance I really thought I was going to be able to make, and I wasn't able to go see it because my student got to perform early and got to go home, and that was great for her. And nobody was upset or anything. But I do like to hear all my students. If you have a lot of events and you're trying to like talk through score sheets and talk through the day and kind of recap, you may want to do like at the last 10 minutes of class, you talk through three or four kids, for a week instead of taking, multiple class periods and taking up a whole class time. Break it up into chunks so that you can still move on with your life, but you can talk to each kid. I do think it's really important to talk to individual kids about their scores and what each thing means and where to go. If you are disappointed with the scores, I will be very honest. This year I was a little disappointed. All of my students that went were right on the line of getting the next place higher, um, which was very frustrating. And I also noticed two of their judges like marked out categories and gave them lower scores instead of higher scores. And there were just some comments in there that I didn't quite think were necessary or useful to my students, which happens as a judge. It's a busy day and you're going through really fast and you don't always know what you're writing, and there's just so many thoughts running through your head trying to give these kids all of the pointers that you want. But I'll talk about that in a second. If you really really are unhappy with something your judge wrote or did on the day, you can file a complaint. At least with our state organization, you can. I would hope that other state organizations it's the same deal. Um, and I have done this at least at one event. But most judges want the kids to just succeed. They want kids to come back. So most judges are doing their job really well, and so I do really appreciate that. Be honest with your kids, with your students, that if you're frustrated with the scores, like you can say like, "Hey, this isn't you. I really believe this judge was a little harsher than maybe they should have been, and that's really frustrating." Um and that's okay to talk to them. You don't have to badmouth the judge or call anyone out or be rude about it. You can just say like, yeah, I don't agree with this and you should have gotten higher and I'm sorry. And then we move on. And it's also a really great life lesson for everybody that like, yeah, sometimes things do not go your way. You can try and do your absolute best and it's still not always going to go your way. And that's what it is. But still celebrate the wins. Still post it on social media. Still talk it up and talk about how proud you are of those kids and how hard they worked. Because there are a lot of students that don't go to solo and ensemble for whatever reason, but and they may have really valid reasons. However, that's okay. Okay. If you are a judge and a teacher during solo and ensemble, meaning you get to go judge at an event and then go to your own event. Being on the judges side is very revealing. Just how I prepare for solo and ensemble is very different now that I have judged solo and ensemble multiple times because I know what they're looking for. I know what it's like to sit in that room and to hear multiple events and to go through the motions like that. Um, you will know better when judges are doing things correctly or incorrectly because you've been on the rules side of things. So you know kind of what to look for when you're hearing comments from judges if you're like, "Oh, that was not what we should be saying to kids." You can take the judges training regardless of if you want to go and actually judge. If you're like, "Man, that's a long day and a lot of time." You do get paid, at least in my state, but um, you can take the judges training, which I would recommend doing. I think it costs, I don't know, I don't remember if it costs anything or not, but if it is, it's very little. It's very affordable to just go do the training videos. And that even by itself was very helpful to be able to go and to just like hear what it's like to go through the judges process and to learn how they're supposed to read the score sheet and how they're supposed to listen and react and talk to students. I think it's really important to be able to do that. Okay. It's also really great as a judge to be able to meet other people and to network. Like, if that's something that's really important to you, that can be a really useful thing that you can go out and network with other judges and just meet other band directors and meet more people that are music teachers across the state and kind of get to see how other programs work and do their thing. So that was really cool too. When you are done and through this process and you're preparing for next year, be sure to write things down. You want to keep a note on your phone. I think it's helpful to keep a running note on my phone of like things, ideas that I come up with for the next year moving forward because I'm always going to have my phone with me and it's I can just keep a running list and organize it somewhere better later. Um, if it's a journal, if it's your phone, whatever, just something to keep track of it. So when the idea comes up, you immediately write it down. But reflect on your own time, take a minute and um, take some time for yourself to just like not think about solo and ensemble, especially after it's over. You have spent so long thinking about it and doing it and processing it that it can be really daunting to like, oh, okay, I have to think about it again. So just take some time to yourself and then come back to it and come back to thinking about how you want to do it next year. Did you start preparing too late? Did you start preparing too early and the kids are really tired and burnt out of the music? Was the music too easy? Did they play it really fast and then you didn't have anything else to work on for a long time? Was music too hard? Did you give them music or allow them to play music? Or in my case, I let kids learn new instruments, which is dicey. But did you pick music that's over their head? Try to find a nice middle ground that's going to challenge them, but it's not going to be something that they're not going to be successful at. In the end, this program for me, it helps kids get better at their instruments, which is the main goal. But also, I want kids to get a medal and be proud of what they are doing and to show off my program a little bit to say, like, look, we're doing important things and kids are winning things here too. If not a lot of kids went or signed up for solo and ensemble or they backed out last minute or whatever, think about why that is and how to move forward from that. So are they not signing up because it's not a worthwhile event or you're not spending enough time or whatever? Are they not signing up because they're too busy? They have too many things going on, their schedule. For us, it's a tricky time of year because it is right in the middle of basketball season. But is there something that's that's blocking kids from wanting to do this? And if not a lot of kids are signing up, is it worth it for you to spend that time and money doing this? Could you do an in-house event instead and work on something that's a little bit more beneficial to you and you're going to get a lot more kids involved? So, we're towards the end here, my bullet points. It's kind of a shorter episode, I think. I could be wrong. I have no sense of time when I'm doing these, I'll be very honest. But something for you to like mental health, take care of yourself. Get out of your band room every once in a while. Try it like once a day to see the outside, to look outside. Maybe your band room has a window, and I love that for you. But like get out of your room for a few minutes and not just to go to the bathroom or just to like walk down to check your mailbox or go to the copier, but like try to have a conversation with another adult. I know there are some days in my world where I do not talk to other adults. I only talk to students and do my work and then move on. And that's a really exhausting day that I don't get to like decompress and talk to other adults or just like have a conversation with someone else. Um, venture out of your cave. I call my band room the cave because it's just a windowless area. See the outside sky, especially if it's like a nice weather day. I know sometimes the group that I eat lunch with, we like sit outside and eat lunch. There's a park across the street, like the town park, and so we get to sometimes sit outside and eat lunch, and that's nice. Take yourself out to lunch if you can, if you have the time or if you have, like I can like walk down to a place and pick up some lunch, or just take a little walk outside, like on your prep. Just like walk around the block. That's nice sometimes too. Um, Touch some grass. I know I hear that saying from a lot of other people, which is can be real, but also can be like just like breathe some fresh air for a minute and like just focus on something that isn't your job and how hard it is, just for a minute. So you can find us on Gmail. You can email us smalltownmusicpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on TikTok, Smalltown Music Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Smalltown Music 21. You can find us on Instagram, small.townmusic. So like us, follow us, let us know what you want to hear from us. This podcast is for you as much as I like talking about my job. I don't have to just talk about the things that I want to. Let us know what's helpful for you. And I hope you're doing great things and keep on keeping on.